Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
How would you like to become unstoppable, irresistible, and unafraid in every area of your life? Get free instant access to my Double Your Confidence program to become a person of action, overcome any obstacle, and scale any height. Go to kfmconfidence.com to get instant access to my program. Again, that's kfmconfidence.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Sarah Centrella, the author of Hustle, Believe, Receive. She's also been featured on the Steve Harvey Show, the New York Times, CBS, and NBC. Sarah, happy to have you here on the show.
Thanks so much, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
All right, Sarah, let's dive in. Let's go with a favorite success quote or some sort of saying that you've lived by, something that's helped you on your journey. What you got and what does that mean to you?
Oh, well, I have to kind of go with the obvious here, which is the title of my book, which long before it was the title of the book, it was my motto that I live by, or my mantra, which is hustle, believe, receive. If you work your butt off and you believe you can do it, you're going to get it.
And so let's dive into that. Let's go into hustle, believe, and then receive, which I'm interested in learning about what more about what that means. But, let's take a few steps back. Like, what was your story like? Like, how'd you get started with what you do here?
Yeah. So the evolution of the book kind of started in 2008 when I suddenly found myself a single mom overnight. I had been married for 8 years, been with my high school sweetheart for 16, and we had 3 very little kids. My twins were about a year old at the time. And I found out he was having an affair, and that ended our marriage literally in 10 seconds. It was okay, bye, it's over. Get out of the house, don't ever come back. So that left me.
Was it like a quick situation where you kind of knew about it, but you didn't do anything, or you found out and it was just game over?
I had no clue. We were high school sweethearts, so it never even crossed my mind. It was kind of like one of those really, naive, if you will. I mean, it never even crossed my mind that it could happen. And so I read a text message on his phone while he was in the shower, and I was like, all right, turn the shower off, get out, and don't ever come back. And that was really honestly how it happened. It was instantaneous, if you will. So that changed everything. Instantly it went from, this quote unquote perfect life where you're building in your 30s and the, careers and the house and yada, yada, to nothing. I mean, I had been a stay-at-home mom, so I hadn't worked in 2 years. I totally didn't realize that everything was in his name. I didn't have a penny to my name. So that's kind of where my story started, because in those first couple horrible days, I really kind of had an option to just disintegrate. It's when the worst happens, you either kind of fall apart or you're like, well, crap, what else do I have to do but to get up and fight? And if I'm going to fight, I might as well fight for something great. And that's kind of what triggered for me. I thought, if I have to rebuild my life totally, then I want a great life. I don't want just a mediocre life. I don't want to just survive. I want it all. I want everything I dreamed of as a kid. So it started there, and it kind of turned into a blog, which, people started paying attention, saying, wait, what are you doing? And how is it working for you when it doesn't work for me? And then that kind of has led to the evolution, which led to the book 2 years ago, or the book deal 2 years ago. Yeah.
When you were in that moment where you left your high school sweetheart, your husband,
mm-hmm.
was he the provider? Were you taking care of the kids, kind of that kind of thing? And I'm wondering how, what was it like financially for you after that moment? Because I know a lot of women, sometimes they never saw it coming. And then now they're in this position where they have to provide and get a job and take care of kids. And what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly like that. I'd kind of been the breadwinner in the beginning of our marriage. But then, when we got pregnant with the twins, we had a 5-year-old already. And daycare just didn't make sense for both of us to work. So I stepped back and was home for 2 years. And we just financially really, really struggled. But during that time, it was kind of one of those things where I think women do find themselves in a situation that you just, because you never expect it, you don't pay attention to a lot of the little details. And, you know, things like the car was in his name. And we got to a place where all bank accounts were in his name. You know, just all these things that when you're married, you don't think are, you know, a big deal, because of course, why wouldn't they be? But then all of a sudden, when it's all gone, you no longer have access to a car. You no longer have access to a bank account. And so it was instantly terrifying. I mean, I instantly did not have $10 to my name, did not have access to $10. So it was complete overnight survival in the worst kind of form. And it was also the biggest recession. It was 2008. So it was like the worst recession we had seen up here. So no one was getting a job. And it was kind of all of that perfect storm that just really was just gritty. How do I live? I sold everything we owned. I sold my wedding gown. I sold my wedding rings. I sold everything just to be able to live for 3 months until I got a job. And then kind of once I got a job, I thought, okay, as long as I have a job, then I can make this work somehow. And it was getting that kind of vision in the very beginning of wanting a better life that powered me through kind of the really, really difficult times that came even after that. You know, it's a rocky road. Being a single mom is never, like, I don't think, a piece of cake.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. And so in your book, you talk about it's hustle, believe, receive, and you have these 8 steps. So walk us through what these 8 steps are and how did you apply these into your life when you were coming out of that hardship?
Well, it's interesting because right kind of when I got my job and I started realizing I wanted a better life, I started looking around at people who were successful, and I wanted to get them in my aura, if you will, or, you know, make friendships with people who were successful. And I was very fortunate in that I met a football player who at the time played for the Oregon Ducks. His name is Kenyon Barner. And he was very young at the time. I think he was like, I don't know, 22. But he had this just great wisdom about life and about how your attitude impacts what you get out of life. And, you know, he talked to me a lot about how he visualized his success and just all of these kind of concepts that eventually really became what I applied into my own life and became the 8 steps in the book. So he kind of, him and a couple other of the people who I surrounded myself with in the very early stages really influenced a lot of the steps of the book. I very much was interested in athletics because my son is, you know, he was at the time like 8 or 9 and he loved football. So that was kind of our thing. And I just started observing it, started thinking, well, hey, if, you know, visualization and hard work and all of this works for an athlete, why can't it work for me in corporate? You know, why can't I apply that exact same recipe into my own life? And that's really what I did. I really just kind of observed what an athlete does to gain success in their field and applied it to life, whether it was relationships or career or money or any of those things. And it worked every time. And that's when I was like, well, dang, you know, I might be onto something here. And so, yeah, like the first step is dream it. You have to have a dream, right? So every athlete or every entrepreneur, you have a dream. It's something that the more you focus on it and the more you think about it, the more it becomes your driving force and the more it keeps you from quitting when things get tough. So that's step 1.
All right. So what advice do you have for someone, like, when you're looking at your dreams, do you feel like at any part, like, is this even possible? Is this really going to happen? Like, you look at these other people and they've done it, but when you look at your own life and you're in this tough position, what were you telling yourself other than hustle, believe, receive?
Right.
To really make this happen? Because it's dreaming, I think, is fun. Like, setting goals to me is like my favorite part about personal development and going on a journey. It's like, what do you want to create? That's so exciting. But any part of you felt like, is this really possible?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes and no, I guess. I completely agree with what you're saying in the sense that you can't just dream, right? And there's a lot of kind of success methods out there that teach you that's all you have to do. You just have to think positive and dream and la-di-da, it's going to happen. And I've always been a hard worker, so I knew from the get-go that was not how it works. You don't just dream it up and it shows up. But you do kind of have to start with an end in mind, if you will, or some type of goal, and a dream is great for that. And I think in the beginning, it does seem so unrealistic, right? It feels like this giant leap from where your life is now to where you want to go that it makes you kind of laugh. You're kind of like, yeah, right. You know, so there's definitely part of you that doubts it. But the longer that you focus on it and the more you kind of surround yourself with both the circle of people who are like-minded or who are doing similar things, and then also, what you listen to, I mean, it comes down to like your music. I'm a big vision board person, so I have it on my board. So the more you surround yourself with it, the more this kind of magical element starts to kick in, which is belief. And it's something that just I've found kind of happens almost naturally over time. By the more you input this positivity and where you want to go into your brain, the more your brain's like, okay, I buy in, every little bit starts to add kind of like pennies in a bucket. The more you put in, the more it adds up. And that's kind of how I think belief works. And belief is step 7 out of the 8. So I teach you how to believe too, even if you don't, even if you're coming into it going, there's no way, I could make my life into XYZ. You can. You definitely can. And by the time you get to that step, you're like, oh, I do. I kind of get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're setting like the goal, we're setting the vision, and it's really exciting. And then you have to do it. This is where the hustle comes into play, where it takes time. And so how long on your journey were you hustling, and how did you have the courage to, keep going for your dreams? And you had kids, and you were climbing out of this, struggling financially and all of that. So how did you handle that?
Oh my God, this is honestly, it's my favorite step. And I think it's this, yes, to do it. And I think it's what everyone dreads.
Yes,
if you're coming into success teachings or anything like that, you don't want to hear that you have to work your butt off for it. I mean, let's be honest, that's the step. No one talks about it. I didn't see a whole lot of books on how to hustle, but if you talk to anybody who is actively pursuing their dream, whether they're an entrepreneur or an athlete or a musician or whatever, they have they have the hustle every single day of their life. And that is honestly, that's what they love. That just is who they are. Whether they're having a successful day or a totally down day, they love their dream enough that they're putting in the work every day. But I've found in the people that I was coaching that a lot of people just did not know how to do it. They did not know, they didn't have kind of that innate hustler in them, if you will, that said, okay, well, here's what I go do. And so I interviewed 51 people for the book in every genre of life I could possibly think of, pursuing dreams from like a candy maker to a Super Bowl champion and everything in between, because I wanted to show what the hustle looks like for all of these different types of dreams, because every single person had it. For instance, I just talked to Jose Lewis, and he's an Olympian for this summer's games. And so I asked him, like, what is your hustle like? And he's like, I work out 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you just don't think of that on the outside. You think, oh yeah, they go to the track, they get up and run. It's not that bad, right? But then you ask him to break down a day in his life, and it's ridiculous. Like, it makes you want to cry hearing it, And then all of a sudden you say, oh, that's what it takes to be successful. Okay, I get it. And I feel like if more people knew that going in, that it was that hard and it was going to take that much effort and blood, sweat, and tears, then when it got hard, they wouldn't be discouraged. You know what I mean? Because they were like, this is normal. Yeah. But I think most people don't think it's normal. They think it's automatic and amazing. It's freaking not, But if you know that, then you don't quit when it gets hard, right? Then you're like, oh, okay, well, this is the sucky part,
Yeah,
so
it's like the 2 words I'll say, like, hey, man, you can have this. You can be successful at this. If someone wants to create a podcast, they want to write a book, they want to do a live event or be a speaker, then I would say, hey, it's going to take hard work and it's going to take patience,
right,
and sacrifice. And if you think about those 3 words, hard work, or that's 2 words, but one phrase, and then patience, and then sacrifice. Those are, each one of those, it sounds really bad. Like, no one likes
right.
hard work, the sacrifice, the patience. It's like, I have to do all
Everyone's
that. And then on top of that, you could, with some icing, you could add in some uncertainty with the fact that it's,
disappointment.
You might actually fail. And,
right.
This whole idea of the hard work and patience, and then the sacrifice, it can be overwhelming. But I think the trick, and I think you may have found this too, is to really, how can we enjoy the journey? And then it's like you really flip the scripts to where
you totally do. And it's funny, in the book I say, I won't use the expletives that I use in the book.
Go ahead, use the explicitives. I want all of it.
All right, guys. So, all right, perfect. I think the hustle, like for someone who's really chasing their dream, the hustle's your shit, man. I mean, like the hustle's your shit. That's what you get up and do. Like that is what you live for, whether you hate it that day or whether you just had the breakthrough you've been grinding for a year. Every day, it's still your shit. It's not sexy. It's not the part that everybody wants to talk about or hear about. They just want to see the Olympian on the stage. They want to see him run this race, and then they want like a 2-second little clip on how he got there. Like, oh, great, I feel good. But, no one was there for the 9 months that he was out there grinding every single day, blood, sweating, tears, didn't have food because he doesn't have a sponsor, like it's that nasty. And so if someone comes to him and says, hey, I want to be an Olympian, and you lay out the formula and say, okay, are you willing to starve yourself for this? Are you willing to train yourself? That's how you kind of know. And I think that's the difference between successful people and non-successful people. I don't think it's any magic that successful people have. I think that they are just freaking unwilling to quit. And the more you decide not to quit, the harder it becomes to quit, right? It's this crazy little metrics that happens where it shifts from, oh, I hate to do this, I don't want to do this, to I can't live without it. So, there's no way I'm quitting. And that's how the book became for me. It became this live journey that I, had social media following me on, watching the whole thing saying, is she going to fail? Here's this total unknown writer who has this crazy dream to get a traditional publishing deal where no one gets traditional publishing deals these days. And it just hit number 1 this last week in all self-help. So, it's possible for me. It's possible for anyone.
Yeah. Congratulations on that. Let's talk about what are some of the daily habits that would make someone more successful at being a hustler?
Oh man, I think you have to every single day do something that gets you closer to your dream. So you can't be okay with being static even one day. I mean, there's times where you can, take a little break and maybe your hustle for that day is spending time on Twitter or something, as long as it's somewhat relative to what you're doing. But you have to do something every day that tells the universe, I'm serious. I'm still here. I'm still hustling. I'm not giving up. I'm not letting it die, because that's the danger zone. If you go a week, it's kind of like working out, right? If you skip working out for a week, then you kind of feel like, I could go back to it, no problem. You skip it for a month, it's a different story. You skip it for a year, you're kind of screwed, right? So it's the same thing. As long as you're doing something every day, and that could be, like I said, it could be just social media. It could be research. It could be tinkering with your website and making it better. It could be listening to other people who are successful in the dream that you want to follow. Any of those things count, because it's all surrounding yourself and inputting, into your space and into your brain, knowledge that's going to move you forward. So that's number 1 thing I tell anybody. Whatever it is you want to do something every day. Even if it's just telling someone, hey, this is what I do.
Yeah. I feel like you're patient and you're playing that long game where just every single day I'm going to do the work, and with time as my ally, I'll be able to succeed at this goal.
Right.
What
absolutely.
I'm getting, yeah. What would you say are some common mistakes, like some do's and don'ts that people make when they start some goal or they have this vision of what they want to achieve?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head. Not having patience. That's number 1. I think people expect instantaneous results, and they expect the best case scenario.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. Yeah, that's super dangerous, because the best case scenario is what happens after you've worked your butt off for a long ass time. I mean, I didn't get to number 1 overnight. I started writing my very first book 4.5 years ago. So I started this whole public thing saying I was going to write a book 4.5 years ago, and then wrote 3 books before I got one that was published. But had I not gone through all that, had I not written those other 3 books that were probably wild failures, I would have never been able to have written this one. I wouldn't have been a good enough writer. I wouldn't have known enough. I wouldn't have, wanted the dream as bad as I did. So you cannot expect that on your first try, you're going to hit gold. If you do, that's amazing. Then find ways to pass it on and find ways to better the people around you and mentor and all those things. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to. So you have to be prepared for that so that it doesn't discourage you when best case scenario doesn't happen. You just have to be like, oh, well, and, that's not going to deter me. I'm still trucking no matter what. So that's the biggest thing that I see people quote unquote fail on. The other thing is that I think that people assume or are afraid of failure. And I think failure is, it's the enemy of success. And the reason why is because it's really an illusion. It doesn't exist, because everything that you do that quote unquote fails is part of your journey. It's part of what's making you better, is part of what's fleshing out your dream and making it clearer. It's like those 3 books. Like I said, had I not done them, I wouldn't have gotten to number 4 that hit. So people are so terrified of failure that they don't try, but it's like, there's no such thing. It's your idea of failure that's keeping you from success, because there really is no such thing. It's all a learning ground. It's all a school.
Yeah. Failure is feedback.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Failure helps us learn, or we succeed. But if we learn, we'll actually probably have greater success later down the road. So it's kind of like an investment. When you fail, it's like you're actually learning more so that the success will be even much greater. Like, kind of, you can think of failure as like compound interest or something.
It's an education. I literally think of it as sitting it in like grad school or something.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an education. It's a download of information. So it helps you like make better decisions next time, but it is never an end. It's never quote failure. It just isn't. That's an illusion. It really, expectations have a lot to do with it. Of course, you're hoping for the best always, but you're working your butt off for every scenario in between, and undeterred for all the different options that will come along your journey.
Yeah. I really like the topic of fear and failure. I don't know what it is, but I really am interested. Like, I'm fascinated by the topic.
I am too.
Robert Greene has a book, 50th Law, with 50 Cent, and it's all about the 50th Law is like the fear and about hustle and taking action. I love this idea here. What would you say is some of the advanced stuff that you think about that didn't make the book, or you haven't yet shared it?
Oh, that's a tough one. There were so many concepts. So there's 8 main steps in the book, which is like dream it, say it, think it, do it, write it, believe it. But then there's all these kind of subcategories that I break out too. And I could have gone on, honestly, with those forever. So an example of those is courage over fear. And I use hashtags throughout the book so that people can really like get the conversation going. But there are these like mini concepts within the book. And what you're just saying about fear is, I'm the same way. I'm so fascinated by it, because I'm like, why do so many people, not have an amazing life because of fear? It's kind of mind blowing, but,
exactly, yeah.
So yeah, there's so many. And I think, I wrote the book now almost exactly a year ago. And, even since then, there's other kind of tips that come out. I'm like, oh, that would be a great tip to, put in the book, but it could go on literally forever.
Yeah, it would never publish. It's like,
right. I think these are the core ones. These are the important ones, and there's one in there called Change Your Crew. I think, oh my gosh, that's another one of those that's just like, it's close to home, because your crew can either elevate you or destroy you. Like, people don't get that.
Your people you surround yourself with. Okay.
Yep. They could be, they could be. All right. I know.
Sounds like we're gangsters now.
Exactly. We are gangsters.
Yeah.
It can be Facebook haters, that you allow in your circle because you can't say no to them. It could be a million different things. It can be your work environment or whatever, but it's basically your circle of influence, the people that you allow into your life to influence you. And that can sabotage your success and destroy your success, or it can elevate you to the next level. And learning that difference and learning how to use that difference is everything. That's the reason why I'm here, is because from the very beginning, I made great friendships with amazing people. And, I mentioned Kenyon Barner in the beginning of our talk today, and he was actually at the book launch in New York. We had a big party at One Oak in New York when the book came out. And, 6 years later, he's still there, like totally supporting and every single thing that we've done. He's come out and spoke on behalf of the book. And so that and all the people in it have become my crew, people who are like-minded and are living their best life, or at least constantly aiming to do that. And that's what you got to do. Surround yourself with those kind of people.
Yeah, I like that. And it goes from that Jim Rohn quote, like, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. It's very like, okay, like, I get it. All right. But being able to actually do something about that is where it's, again, we got to go to hard work and hustle and sacrifice. Yep. And it's like, no.
And you got to humble yourself. Especially when you are surrounding yourself with people who are successful already and you're on your come up, if you will. You got to be totally fine with being the low man on the totem pole.
Being a student, being like
being a student, be a sponge,
a little Padawan, a little, an apprentice.
Exactly. And be grateful for that position, not begrudging. And people will really open up to you, and they will give you opportunities you never thought that you could ever be in the presence of if you are grateful and humble.
I find that successful people really I'll just use the word apprentice or Padawan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like they think it's cute. It's like, oh, like he's like, they want to help you is what I mean.
They do.
It's like,
totally.
even though you're no longer a kid, but you're an adult, but they view you as this like, oh, it's like they want to help you. They want to support you. But as long as you're going through the hard work, you're making sacrifices, you're being patient, and you're hustling, they can see that glitter in your eye. And successful people want to be a part of your journey. Like they too were once in your shoes, is what I have
100%. Yeah, 100%. And they really do. I think a lot of times when you're very successful, and there was a lot of people I interviewed in the book who had never given an interview because they're up at the top of their game and they don't do personal interviews or anything like that. But when I came to them, it really reminded them of themselves, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever the case was, where they were like, I get it. I remember being, I'm a little late in my dream game, but, a lot of them started their dream game when they were really young, and they're like, oh, that reminds me. I worked that hard too when I started out. And so I've definitely found that every successful person that I know that is genuine and self-made is more than ready and willing to share their knowledge if you're open to hearing it. And that's, oh my gosh, do that, people. I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Show up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Speaking of you called it dream game. Is that what you called it?
My dream board. My dream board. Yeah.
Got it.
I actually call it a future board. But a lot of people call them vision boards or future boards or dream boards. But I think that words hold a lot of power. And so to me, when I look at a board that has my future life on it, I really need to get in that mindset of, it's not a fantasy. It's not a dream. I've mapped out my future life. Yes, exactly. And you do. One of the steps is write it. So you write your physical blueprint, and this is the visual representation. It hangs in my room. I'm looking at it right now.
I like that. It's open and visible. Some people make them and then they hide it like it's this they're almost embarrassed. It's like some guys will put pictures of girls and stuff, and it's
right. Well, I will just say that Jose, who's the Olympian, he's awesome. He was one of the first guys 4 or 5 years ago that I knew that had a board, and he came to me because boards is kind of how I've got my niche going, I guess, on social media, is because I've manifested 3 boards now. It's crazy things like private flights and just crazy stuff. And he came to me and was like, I've had a vision board and it's been manifesting. I was like, what? You're a guy and you have one? Hands down to you. I love it because they work. They really, really do work, but you have to put it out there. You have to be unashamed of your dreams. You have to be willing to stand up for your dreams, whether people think it's ridiculous or not. Because I'll tell you what, no one was thinking it was ridiculous when I was on the Ravens sidelines and Michael Orr was coming over and introducing himself to my son. They might have thought it was ridiculous when they saw the picture on my wall, beforehand. But the haters stop hating when they see that you're actually accomplishing what you want.
Yeah. It's almost, you're inspiring them. It's like your action and success is starting to drip off and really inspire other people to go on and do the things that they want to do. So that's great stuff. You said earlier, you were interviewing someone and you said, I started a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
For guys who are older listening, they're like, I'm older. And maybe they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. One of the recent interviews that just went live, I think today, what's today? Monday? Yeah, today, was this lady Babette Hughes, she's 93 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she didn't start her dreams until she was in her 80s. And
no way, that's awesome.
She had woken up and been like, wow, I need to start going after my dreams. And since her 80s, she's written 4 novels and is
awesome.
She's a successful author. And the interesting thing is, in that interview, she's got more energy than some of she's 93.
Yeah.
She's just got
that's
more.
That's amazing.
I was like, I got to bring up my energy when I was talking to her.
That's awesome.
And so for the guys, it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter. It's just, let's just do it.
Yeah. I started my recreation of my life, if you will, when I was 34, when my marriage ended. And I'll be 41 next month. And I feel like I'm just starting. I just am getting the training wheels on, This is the barely tipping the iceberg of where I want to go. So, age is a joke. It's literally whatever you decide it will be. And if people use that as an excuse, then that is an excuse. Then you're looking for excuses. You're looking for reasons to talk yourself out of something.
You'll find another one. Like,
yeah, I mean, because
it's 'cause
trust
of where
me,
I live,
you know, like people say, "Oh, you're a woman, you're over 40." Yeah, and so you know, don't let any excuse get between you and whatever it is you want to do, because there are always exceptions to the rule. So why not have that be you? You know?
Yeah, definitely. This has been really good, and let's dive into the knowledge round. Just going to ask you a few more questions here. So,
yeah,
Sarah, you ready for the knowledge round?
Let's do it.
After 200 plus interviews, I've identified the most common trait of success as confidence. Whether you're trying to achieve financial freedom or improving your relationships, confidence is what separates those who get what they want in life and those who don't get what they want in life. So before a man sets out on his journey, it's important that he has the confidence in himself to accomplish his goals and his dreams. You have to have this area of your life taken care of in order to create the life that you want. That's why I've created a free program to double your confidence in less than 30 minutes with this weird but simple set of exercises. Go to kfmconfidence.com. Again, that's kfmconfidence.com to transform your life. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
All right. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling really lost or unsure about their purpose?
Oh, man, I definitely coach a lot of people who come in that way. And I think that the first thing that you need to do is really decide what it is that you want in your life. And I think if that's where you find yourself, that it's probably the case that you've kind of let go of your dreams. So it's time to sit down and reassess those and find out what makes you tick, even if you've forgotten it. You can definitely get it back. It doesn't take much work. So finding out what your dream is, even if it is, you know, to live a happy, quiet life on a beach. Everybody has something that makes them happy. Yeah. So find it.
Yeah. And what was holding you back from becoming the woman you are now today?
Oh, man. You know, I think if I am totally honest, I'm grateful, very grateful for the way things happened at the end of my marriage. I certainly would not be where I am today had I stayed in my marriage. So everything 100% happens for a reason. I can say that from my own experience on multiple occasions. And, you know, sometimes the worst things in life can turn out to be the biggest blessing in disguise. So hang tight if you're going through one of those worst things in life.
Yeah. And that's what I have found to be a true sign of like completion with a crisis is when you can legitimately say like, that was so good for me. Like I needed that. It woke me up, or that was one of the best things that happened to me. But when you're in it, obviously one of the worst things that could ever happen.
Yeah. I call them earthquake moments in the book, where it feels like the whole ground is shifting, you know, and your whole life is falling apart. But then when all the dust settles, you're like, wow, I could build a new house where the old one used to be, you know? So it's most of the time I've found that the hardest things I've been through were actually opening doors for me of what I really wanted. It just took a while for the dust to settle.
Yeah. And this is just, I'm just curious, but has your ex-husband seen what you've become, or has there been any conversation where he's like, damn?
No. So he remarried to the woman that he was with. So yeah, no, we don't really have any of those types of discussions. We just do the every other weekend awkward switcheroo. I mean, it would be great if it wasn't. Yeah, it would be great if it wasn't like that. But at this point, you know, it's all copacetic. So I think that's good enough for me. And, you know, I think sometimes you kind of need to have whatever motivation you can have. And I will not lie when I say that, you know, of course I was in the back of my mind of motivation, all the things that, you know, he thought I couldn't do when we were married. I thought, oh, well, now you're not here to tell me I can't, so I will, you know? So I don't know if he pays any attention or not, but in my mind, I know I did what I, you know, have set out to do. So I'm good with that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. What would you say are 3 of your most influential books that have helped you really in that moment where you were challenged, where you were struggling, where you were really fighting?
Oh, such a good question. You know, I think probably the number one book that has influenced me is The Alchemist. You know, the first time I read it, I don't know that I fully got it. The second time that I read it, it was everything I needed to start my dream. That's actually right when I started my very first book. And then just recently, probably about a month ago, I reread it, and it was everything I needed to embrace success, which is really interesting that I got completely different things from it each time I read it. So I think if whatever book you find that you can kind of have that type of connection that can speak to you in multiple ways and be your Bible, if you will, or your, manual, grab it and hold it tight. And another one is probably Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, I'm a simple chick, so there was part of that it was like over my head. And I was like, man, I just wish they had this in like street lingo, and then I'd be good to go. But I got some great stuff out of that book too. So yeah, I mean, those are probably my top two besides novels.
Okay. And what's the novel? What's the top novel? Just for kicks and giggles.
Oh gosh, well, this is actually I know, right?
Is this a whole new episode here?
No. It's actually a memoir. Probably my favorite book is Glass Castle, which is a memoir. It came out, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. That's a great book. Yeah, by Juliet Wells.
No one knows what it's about. Is it about struggle? Or you just said the title.
I know. It's a memoir of a really effed up childhood, and I'll just say that I'm writing my memoir right now. That one, I found some parallels. I'll just say that.
Do you tell your family that, like, hey guys, I'm writing a memoir? Everyone's like,
yeah, they're terrified.
Sending you gifts in the mail. Like, I didn't mean that.
Right, or they're getting ready to just excommunicate me. One of the two. I don't know.
It might be the latter.
We'll find out.
It could be the latter. Prepare yourself.
Exactly.
This is a good one here. So imagine you had 20, let's give you a minute. Let's say you had 60 seconds with your 25-year-old self. If you can envision what Sarah is doing on a Monday at 25 years old with her life, what would you tell her if you had 60 seconds? What would you tell her to do? What would you tell her not to do?
Oh my God, that is a good one. Gosh, I had just gotten married when I was 25. I was literally 25 on my honeymoon. So I would say, hang on, girl. It's all going to be all right. It's going to be all right. It might be a little bit bumpy, but you know what? You're stronger than you think, and you can always rise above. So just hold on tight and stay true to you, because it works out okay in the end. Better than okay in the end.
Yeah. Is that your philosophy on life and success?
It really is. It really is. I mean, I think if you stick out anything long enough, I mean, the bad stuff doesn't last forever. Sounds like a cliche, but cliches are there because they're true, right?
Yeah.
So, if you can weather anything, the good stuff doesn't last forever either. So if you're not grateful in the good stuff, guess what? The downtime's coming too. It's always going to be a ride. It's never one or the other. So learn how to weather the lows with grace and with stability and with tenacity and with gratitude. And then the highs, definitely ride them with joy and humility, which is a huge thing that I think grounds us, and gratitude. And if you can get that kind of balance going, you'll be unstoppable.
I like that. I really like that. What would you say is the first thing for the audience to do once they turn this off and then they start going back into their life? Like, what's one thing they should do? An activity, exercise?
Buy my book. No. I think the very first thing, and sorry, I had to. You set it up. I mean, you teed it up. It was just ready to go.
Well, I'll plug your book.
I had to hit it. No, I think the first thing you have to do is be grateful. If you can't be grateful in your life as it is right now, which might be your literally bottom of the barrel, like you may be at the lowest point of your life right now, but if you can't find something to be grateful for, then guess what? You could win the lottery. You could have Oprah show up and give you everything you wanted. It doesn't matter. You're not going to be happy. I mean, it'll last for like 5 minutes and you'll think you are, but when that dust settles, you're going to be more miserable than ever. So, and I know people say this, but guess what? I know a lot of successful people and wealthy people, and I've seen it firsthand. If you're not happy in the situation that you're in, and if you don't know how to make yourself happy and force yourself to be grateful when you don't feel like it, then it doesn't matter what life gives you, doesn't matter what you accomplish, you're going to always feel exactly how you feel at the bottom, at the top. So get grateful, man. Get grateful.
No, that's big. And that's so true amongst so many successful. It's nothing external is really going to change your world until you change that inner world first.
100%. Joy only comes from inside you. So, it's not a Louis Vuitton bag. It's not anything, because literally the second that stuff is gone, or the second all your friends are gone from a great party that you're at or something, you feel this incredible empty low point if you don't have joy within you. So, it all starts, we are the foundation of everything that surrounds us. So, take the time to put the work in, because it will manifest in great ways.
Yeah. For the guys, for everyone listening, like really take all this into heart and let's take more action. Let's hustle. Let's believe. And then real quick, like, can you touch on the receive?
Yes.
Yeah. Like what are you talking about?
So receive is get it. That's when you get it. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. So it's like you put in the hustle, you believe it's going to happen, and guess what? It happens. So that's the last step, which is live it. And that's all about like, okay, so now I'm successful. Now how do I live? I mean, you're a totally different person from the bottom to success. So you need to adjust to that, right? And, you know, I coach a lot of athletes, and it's a difficult transition. You think it wouldn't be, but it really is. And if you haven't kind of prepared for it, and if you don't know what success looks like, you can completely lose it once you get successful. You could be, you know, unhappy, or you could just completely lose your success. So that was something that just came up organically in the interviews that I did, where everyone said, I'm constantly moving forward. You know, I'm never there. Until the day I die, I'm never going to be there. And it's not that you're not grateful for what you've accomplished while you've accomplished it, but it's about learning to live in success and adapt to that and change with it and flourish with it and become you are a different person. You have to be a different person. You're working that hard to be a different person. So always kind of like reassessing that and growing, and then live in the joy of, you know, the moments that you worked your butt off for.
Yeah. Yeah. Receive. Everyone receive.
Get it. Get it.
All right. And so what's exciting you now today? Like what's driving you? What are you looking forward to this year?
Oh my goodness. So I just started my second official book, I guess, since I scrapped the original ones, and that is my memoir. So I'm excited. I'm a little over halfway through that, and then we're talking some film stuff with it. So yeah, that's very excited about that. And then excited about doing some live HBR shows with people in the book, where we do some speaking events and stuff together. So it's been an awesome ride. Really, really just amazing. We did a big thing for ABC News a couple months back, a live event for them. It's been really, really fun.
That's so exciting. And one thing I'm getting just from I've done a couple interviews today, and just every interview, when I ask that question, like, hey, what's exciting you? What's driving you? What's getting you out of bed in the morning and stuff like that? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, so much. Like it's really cool. It's just like really loving their life, like living your message. I love seeing someone live their message, and it's really authentic. And that to me is the lesson right there. It's like, wow, she's doing it. I don't even need to go any further. Like there it is right there. She's living the message. So for all the guys listening, check out Amazon, her book, Hustle, Believe, Receive, and her name, Sarah Centrella. That's Centrella with a C. And then you can go to just Google her name, Sarah Centrella. It pops right up. You can get, looks like you write in a lot of places.
I know, million social media.
You got great photos. It's looking good. But yeah, sarahcentrella.com.
Awesome.
And is that you too? Thoughts, Stories, Life?
Yes,
okay.
That's my original blog. So that's the one that everything started with. And I still keep it up. That's like my personal blog, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
And that's where the audience can follow up with you. And thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story and being vulnerable.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for having me. This was so much fun. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of knowledgeformen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.